My beloved, you didn't say much today. Not because you didn't have anything to say, but because somewhere along the line, you convinced yourself that your voice wasn't needed in the room. So you stayed quiet. You nodded at the right times, smiled when expected. But deep inside, you were asking a question no one heard. Does anyone actually see me here? You didn't need applause. You weren't looking for attention. You were just hoping that someone might look past the surface, past the responsibilities you carried, past the competence and the careful posture, and recognize you. Not what you offer, not the role you fill. You, the version of you that goes home quiet, depleted, full of thoughts that never find their way out of your mouth. That version still aches, still wonders, still hides behind a practiced calm. And I want to speak directly to that version of you tonight, because I saw you in the room. Every room. The one where your ideas were skimmed over. The one where your presence was expected, but not truly welcomed. The one where you served without being thanked. The one where you laughed while feeling unknown. The one where you felt too much to say anything at all. And I need you to hear me. You were not invisible in that room. You weren't invisible to me when you sat quietly and swallowed your own needs so someone else could be comfortable. You weren't invisible to me when your strength became a disguise. You weren't invisible when the room chose someone louder, someone more charismatic, someone who didn't carry the same sacred caution in their spirit. I saw the way your shoulders curved inward just slightly, how your silence wasn't weakness but a shield. And I honored that, because while others missed it, I was drawing near. While they looked past you, I leaned closer. While you doubted your value, I whispered your name, again and again, hoping you would notice that my presence had never left. You've learned how to survive silence. You've adapted to being the one people count on, even when no one pauses long enough to ask what you need. You've mastered the art of holding space for others without taking any for yourself. And I grieve that with you, not because you were wrong to love so deeply, but because love was never meant to cost you yourself. Tonight, I want to begin returning that self to you, the one I formed before you ever walked into rooms where you had to earn belonging, the one who didn't second-guess her voice, his presence, their value. The one who didn't carry the invisible weight of proving anything. You were never made to be impressive. You were made to be known. And I know you. I know how you notice what others miss, how you catch tone before words, how you sense when something's off in a room, even when no one says a word. That's not hypersensitivity, that's discernment. That's the way I designed your spirit to interact with this world, but I never asked you to carry that gift alone. I never asked you to sit in the corner of the room, feeling everything and saying nothing, because it wasn't the right time. I gave you that sensitivity to draw you closer to me, not to isolate you from others, but to keep you connected to me in every space that doesn't understand you. And yes, I know how tired you are. I know the fatigue that comes not from doing too much, but from being too unseen for too long. I know how weary your soul has grown from translating yourself into versions people can handle. I know how many nights you've asked me, does anyone see how much I'm holding? And I want you to know, I do. I have. I always will. You've made your home in the back of the room for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to walk forward without apology. You've settled into a role you never signed up for, the quiet one, the overlooked one, the steady support. And while your consistency is beautiful, it was never meant to be the mask that kept you from being recognized. So tonight, let me come into the room, not the physical one, but the emotional one, the one you don't invite anyone else into, the one where your thoughts grow loud in the dark, the one where your worth feels like a whisper and your identity feels like a shadow. Let me step into that room with you. You don't have to perform here. You don't have to protect anyone here. You don't have to apologize for how deeply you feel, how long you've waited, or how much you still want to be known. I already see it all. And I'm not just here to observe, I'm here to restore. You don't need more affirmation. You need recognition. And I want to start giving that to you again, slowly, truly, until you believe it. Until you stop looking for proof in their eyes and start finding your reflection in mine. You're not invisible. Not to me, not now, not ever. Let's name what's really been happening. You've been living under an agreement you never meant to sign. Somewhere in the slow drip of repetition, being overlooked, being misread, being needed but not known. You started to believe something. Maybe it's safer if I stay small. Maybe you didn't say it that clearly. Maybe it never even formed into words. But your heart started to act like it was true. You stopped entering rooms with your full presence. You started shrinking, not physically, but spiritually. You began filtering your words through a new rule: only speak when necessary, and never if it might make others uncomfortable. You began measuring your worth by silence, how little space you could take up, how much weight you could carry without asking for help, how invisible you could become without disappearing entirely. But that's not humility. That's not submission. That's not being kind or being spiritual. That's bondage. And I didn't form you in my image just to watch you fold yourself into a version that others could manage. I didn't fill you with my spirit so you could constantly edit yourself down to fragments. You've been dimming the light, not because you're afraid of the dark, but because you're afraid of being seen and still not chosen. But child, I did choose you. Before you had a voice to question me, before anyone misunderstood you, before you began hiding the parts of yourself that didn't seem to fit, I chose you, not the mask, not the version you've curated to survive. I chose you. And I'm not letting you live under this false agreement any longer. Let me be clear. You were never meant to be invisible. Not in my kingdom. Not in this generation. Not in the rooms I've assigned to you. I'm not asking you to storm into them demanding attention. I'm not asking you to become loud or self-promoting. I'm asking you to walk in with truth in your bones, the truth that I formed you with intention, that I called you with clarity, that I made you for communion, not background noise. I'm not angry with you for withdrawing. I understand why you did. I saw the moments that broke your confidence, when you showed up fully and were met with silence or resistance. I saw the leaders who didn't see you. I saw the community that praised your service but never pursued your heart. I saw how slowly your hope began to close in on itself, and I never looked away. But tonight, I'm standing before that old lie like a judge issuing a final verdict. That agreement is over. You are not invisible. You are not irrelevant. You are not too much or too soft or too intense. You are not forgotten. You are not ignored. You are not replaceable. You are marked. Marked with glory. Marked with discernment. Marked with presence that shifts the spiritual atmosphere, sometimes just by standing in a room. You think nothing's happening when you stay quiet, but I want you to know, even your presence carries something sacred. People don't always recognize it, but their spirits feel it. And I don't want you to hold that back anymore. There's a reason the enemy targeted your confidence in quiet ways, not through loud destruction, but subtle distortion. He didn't need to destroy your gifts. He just needed you to hide them long enough to forget how to use them. But I'm calling them back now. I'm calling you back now. Not to force your way forward, but to be present again, with nothing to prove and nothing to hide. You keep asking me, Lord, is there a place for me? And I'm answering tonight with finality. You were made for this time, for this space, for this generation, not later, not after one more round of healing. Now you say, but what if I show up and no one notices? Then I'll notice. I always do. I see your courage in every act of quiet obedience. I see your offering even when it's invisible to others. And I reward what's done in secret, not because I need secrecy, but because I cherish sincerity. I'm not calling you to compete. I'm calling you to carry. You don't need to be the loudest to be the clearest. You don't need to prove your place. You just need to take it. And when you do, things will begin to respond. Not always immediately, not always publicly, but in the spirit. Everything changes when you stop shrinking and start agreeing with me. Let that be the shift tonight. No more shrinking. Not in the room, not in your prayers, not in the way you speak about yourself, not in how you prepare your heart for rejection that hasn't even happened yet. I want you to begin preparing for recognition, not invisibility. I want you to believe again that there's a place where your full self doesn't just fit, it's needed. And I'm building that place with you. One moment at a time, one conversation at a time, one healed belief at a time. Because you were never meant to be invisible in any room I placed you in. Let's go back. Not for shame, but for understanding. Because this wound didn't start today. It didn't begin with this week's silence or the most recent moment you were overlooked. No, this feeling of invisibility has roots. And I want to go there with you carefully, gently, like a surgeon who doesn't rush but also doesn't avoid the deep work. Can you remember the first time you felt it? Maybe you were still a child, present in the room but not included in the conversation. Maybe you were told directly or indirectly that your thoughts were too much, or your emotions were too sensitive, or your voice was too loud. You learned early on that the way you were wired didn't always win approval, and so piece by piece, you edited yourself. You didn't mean to, but survival demanded it. Or maybe it wasn't one dramatic moment. Maybe it was accumulated neglect, the kind that drips slowly, like a faucet you can't quite turn off, a parent too tired to notice, a friend who only calls when they need you, a church that praised your service but never asked how your soul was doing, a workplace that uses your gifts but forgets your name. It adds up. And over time, that accumulation becomes agreement. And the agreement sounds like this. Maybe I'm just meant to be in the background. But you weren't. That belief didn't come from me. That quiet resignation, that invisible vow you made never to be too much again, that came from pain. That came from rejection. That came from a lie you were too young or too tired to fight off. And I grieve that with you, not just as your father, but as the one who was in the room with you when it happened. I didn't turn away. I didn't ignore it. I saw the exact second your countenance shifted, the moment your eyes dropped, the moment your voice started to shrink, even in your own ears. And I want to say something now that someone else should have said back then. I'm sorry they didn't see you. I'm sorry they didn't listen when you opened up. I'm sorry they only loved the parts of you that were useful. I'm sorry they celebrated your strength, but ignored your need. You never should have had to carry that alone, and you never should have had to learn to disappear in order to feel safe. But even as you faded in the room, I never lost sight of you. I kept seeing you. I kept calling to you. Sometimes in ways you didn't recognize. Through beauty that stirred your spirit, through words that caught your breath, through moments where you suddenly sensed, maybe I am more than this. That wasn't imagination. That was me, refusing to let the room's blindness become your identity. Because here's the truth, child. You were not overlooked because you lacked value. You were overlooked because the room wasn't ready. They weren't ready for your depth. They weren't ready for your discernment. They weren't ready for the kind of presence you carry, the kind that confronts shallow spaces without even speaking. Your mere existence challenged what was false, and instead of celebrating you, they bypassed you. but I didn't. And now we're uprooting every internal conclusion you made in response to that pain. You're not safer when you're silent. You are not more lovable when you're invisible. You are not easier to accept when you're less of yourself. These were coping mechanisms, emotional scaffolding, but they've started to collapse under the weight of your calling. And that's not failure, that's grace. You're being invited to rebuild from truth, not trauma. And part of that truth is this: your presence in the room carries weight, whether they acknowledge it or not. You don't need to prove anything to be worth something. You don't need to fill every silence to be worthy of being heard. And you definitely don't need to disappear just to keep the peace. I'm calling you to walk differently now. Not aggressively, not performatively, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows, I belong here. I was placed here. Even if no one else sees it yet, God does. This will feel unfamiliar at first, almost like rebellion. But it's not rebellion, it's return. You're returning to the wholeness of who you were before the invisibility set in, and I will walk you through it, slowly, tenderly. I will hold your heart when it starts to doubt again, and I will whisper the truth until it drowns out every echo of rejection that ever tried to name you. You are not invisible in my presence. You never were. Something is already shifting. You may not feel it in dramatic ways. There's no spotlight, no applause, no sudden wave of courage. But deep beneath the surface of your silence, I've been moving. Healing doesn't always look like a miracle. It often looks like awareness. And that awareness is growing in you now. Slowly, subtly, steadily. You've started noticing how often you silence yourself. You've started catching the moments where you apologize just for existing, for taking up space, for expressing something honest. That's not weakness. That's awakening. That's your soul, beginning to resist the lie of invisibility. That's me, stirring the parts of you that forgot how to speak with authority, how to pray with trust, how to believe that your presence matters. It's happening in layers, in whispers, in glimpses of self-respect you almost don't recognize yet. When you pause before saying yes to something that drains you. When you feel the holy discomfort of staying small in a room that's too quiet to hold what I've placed in you. When you sense the tension rising between the version of you that adapted to survive and the version I'm now calling forth to thrive. That tension? It's not anxiety, it's growth. You're not who you were, and you know it. You feel it in the restlessness that won't let you perform like you used to. You feel it in the way you now long for spaces that feel safe, not just strategic. You feel it in the way you hesitate before stepping back into rooms where you've historically disappeared. That hesitation isn't fear, it's discernment. And that discernment is holy. I gave it to you. You don't owe every room your full presence, but you do owe yourself the truth. And here is the truth. You don't have to wait for the world to notice before you begin to step into who you are. You don't need the invitation of others to walk in what I've already declared over you. You've been waiting to be chosen by people, but I already chose you before the foundation of the world, and my choice is not symbolic. It carries weight. So even if the room still hasn't changed, you have. And that internal shift will begin to affect everything. You'll feel it the next time you enter a familiar place and don't default to invisibility. You'll feel it when you speak up, even if your voice shakes. You'll feel it when you leave a space that once defined you and realize it no longer holds the same power. These aren't small moments. These are prophetic movements. Every time you say yes to my voice instead of your past, you're breaking spiritual agreements. You're undoing old vows of silence. You're stepping out of spiritual fog and into my light. And no, it's not dramatic, but it's decisive. And in the spirit, things are shifting. Even now, I'm sending confirmation. Not loud or performative, but specific. A text from someone you hadn't heard from in a while. a phrase in a sermon that sounds like it was written just for you, a moment where someone turns to you and says, "I don't know why, but I feel like I need to tell you, you carry something special." Those aren't coincidences. They're breadcrumbs, signs, proof that I've been in the room all along, redirecting your story back to truth. You're not invisible to me, and because of that, you'll start to see how I've been placing others in your life who see you too. Slowly, I'm replacing exhaustion with mutuality. I'm bringing people who don't just need you. They know you. Who don't just take from you, they honor you. These aren't saviors. They're signs. And you don't have to search for them. Just stay present. I'll make the introductions. You don't have to announce this shift. You don't need to declare that you're stepping out of invisibility. The spiritual realm already knows. Hell knows. Heaven knows. And those assigned to walk with you, they'll know too, because of the weight you carry when you walk into the room. Not loud, not desperate, just whole, just present, just seen, by me first, and then by others. And if the old rooms still miss it, that's okay. Let them. You don't have to shrink to be digestible. Let those who are hungry for light see it, and let the rest move on. This is part of your healing, no longer shaping yourself around what isn't willing to hold you. Because I'm preparing rooms where your presence won't feel like an interruption. It will feel like the final piece. Then you're almost there. Let's talk now about how you move forward from this place. Not with pressure, not with performance, but with intention. Healing is holy, yes, but it also becomes practical, and I care deeply about how you live now, that you're no longer carrying the cloak of invisibility. I want to show you how to build a life that protects what I've begun to restore. Let's start with your body. You've been holding tension in places that words never reached. Your shoulders, your jaw, your breath. I know. That tightness isn't just physical, it's emotional memory stored deep in your muscles. Your body remembers the rooms where you were tolerated but not known. It remembers the times you stayed still so you wouldn't be a burden. But now your body needs permission to move differently, to rest differently, to breathe again, not like someone bracing for impact, but like someone safe. So here is my invitation. Begin unwinding your posture. Stretch without agenda. Sit in silence without apologizing. Go for walks without needing a destination. Let your body exhale what your spirit has been carrying alone. You're not a machine. You're not a tool. You're my creation. And your breath matters to me. So breathe like someone I see. Breathe like someone who belongs. Because you do. Now let's talk about your space, your environment. What surrounds you matters. I want you to begin reclaiming even your physical atmosphere as holy ground. You've lived in survival rhythm so long that your room, your desk, your daily patterns may still echo that fatigue. But you're not in that wilderness anymore. This is a season of rebuilding, and I want you to make your space match the truth you're now living. You don't need a perfect home to host my peace. You just need intentional space. Light a candle. Play music that quiets the chaos. Place reminders around you, not of who you should be, but of who you already are. Write what I've spoken over you and hang it where you'll see it. This isn't decoration, it's declaration. You are seen here. So let every corner of your life begin to reflect that. And now your time. You've spent so many years managing everyone else's needs that you've almost forgotten what it feels like to ask yourself, what does my soul need today? So I'm inviting you to return to time as something sacred, not just scheduled, not just productive, but holy. Carve out moments in your day that are for you and me alone, even if it's just 15 minutes, even if it's one honest conversation, even if it's one walk without your phone. This is not selfish. This is soul tending. You've been feeding others from a place of depletion, but now I want you to learn to feed from my presence before you pour again. Your time is not a task list. Your time is territory. And I want to reclaim it with you. And let me say something else gently, but clearly, you don't need to be everywhere anymore. I know you've gotten used to being the one who always shows up, the one who never lets anyone down. But I didn't design you to be everywhere. I designed you to be present where you are called. Not obligated, called. And that means you'll need to start saying no, not because you're rejecting people, but because you're finally listening to me. You will find your strength again, not in saying yes to everything, but in saying yes to the right things. Your schedule doesn't determine your worth. Your yes is powerful, and it must be guarded. I'm giving you that permission, not to isolate, but to consecrate. Your time matters because your soul matters, and I've placed my spirit in you to teach you what pace is holy and what pace is harmful. Finally, let me speak to your soul, the deep part of you that is still learning how to receive without apologizing. You've gotten so used to over-explaining, to offering disclaimers for your joy, your rest, even your needs. But I'm calling you to unlearn that habit. You don't owe the world an explanation for healing. You don't owe anyone a defense for boundaries. You don't need to soften your growth just to keep others comfortable. You are not a disruption. You are not demanding. You are not asking for too much. You are asking for what's holy, space to breathe, space to feel, space to become. And I will honor that. I will guard that with you. So tonight, start small. Place your hand over your heart and say what you've been afraid to admit. I belong. I am not invisible. I do not need to earn my place. Let those words live on your tongue. Let them settle into your body. Let them speak louder than the echoes of every room that missed your worth. You're not just healing, you're repatterning. And I will walk with you through every new rhythm. Let's talk now about who you are, beyond what they saw, beyond what they didn't see, beyond even what you started believing about yourself after being overlooked for so long. Because I know there are labels you've carried quietly, not dramatic, not shouted, but they settled in like dust over time. Labels like the quiet one, the safe one, the helper, the one who always listens but never speaks. And for a while they felt accurate, even comforting. They helped you feel like you belonged, or at least like you had a reason to be needed. But those labels were never your identity. They were survival tools. And now that I've begun to restore your heart, I want to gently begin peeling those labels off, one by one. Not to leave you exposed, but to reveal the glory underneath. You're not just the quiet one. You are the attuned one, the one who hears what others miss. You are not just the safe one. You are the anointed one, the one whose presence is a sanctuary, not because you stay small, but because you carry peace. You are not just the helper. You are the heir, a child of glory, not a servant of obligation. You are not just the listener. You are the voice, a voice I've preserved for this generation, for this time, for these rooms. Let me say it simply. You are not what was projected onto you in rooms that didn't recognize my image inside you. You are not invisible. You are not muted. You are not a background character in someone else's story. You are my witness. You are my messenger. You are my reflection. I didn't place you in this generation just to support others while you hide yourself. I placed you to carry presence, not as a reaction, but as a revelation. You're not the supporting role. You are called. You are seen. You are named by me, and I want to return to that name. Not the one that formed from your coping, but the one I gave you in the secret place. The one that isn't built on output or likability or how softly you can enter a room without disrupting it. No, I called you bold, even if you're soft-spoken. I called you dangerous to darkness, even if your steps are gentle. I called you holy, not because you try so hard, but because you are mine. I want to uncover the identity that's been buried under layers of spiritual exhaustion and emotional accommodation. The one who used to ask bold questions, the one who used to feel wonder easily, the one who once believed that my hand was on them, not by accident, but by design. She's still there, he's still there, you are still there. Underneath the silence, you still carry the fire. Underneath the long obedience and silent tears, your spirit is still alive. And I'm awakening it, not with pressure, not with demand, but with the kind of love that doesn't flinch when you need to relearn who you are. You've been misnamed by culture, misunderstood by leadership, misinterpreted by people who didn't see past your posture. But I have never been confused about you, even when you were confused about yourself. And this is what I want you to begin to believe. I like how I made you. I'm not tolerating your sensitivity. I intended it. I'm not trying to change your softness. I use it. I'm not disappointed by your caution. I'm deepening it into discernment. Everything they called too much or too quiet or too sensitive, I call sacred. You are not too little, you're not too late, you're not too slow. You are right on time and exactly who I designed. So let me restore the name you lost when you first felt unseen. Let me reintroduce you to the identity I spoke over you before you ever walked into a room that made you question your worth. You don't need to earn it back. You only need to receive it. Let the false names fall. Let the old definitions crumble. Let the silence break, not into noise, but into truth. Because the truth is, you were never invisible. You were just misnamed. Now that you know who you are again, I want to teach you how to live like it, not out of pressure, but out of rhythm. You've spent so long adjusting yourself to rooms that weren't ready for your voice, that it may feel foreign. Now, to move with purpose again, that's okay. You don't need to master it all at once. You only need to begin walking differently, with awareness, with me. Let's start with your prayers. I want them to sound different now, not rehearsed, not polite, not filtered through the idea that you must be small in order to be spiritual. I want prayers that match your restored identity. Prayers that come from presence, not performance. Prayers that dare to ask, that dare to declare, that speak like someone who knows they've been seen. You don't need to apologize before you speak to me. You don't need to minimize what you long for just to seem humble. Real humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking rightly about who I am and who you are because of that. And here's the truth. You are my child. You are seated with Christ. You have access to my heart. You don't come to me as a servant knocking at the door. You come as a daughter, a son, a deeply loved image bearer, who I miss when you don't speak. So pray like someone expected to be heard. Don't just whisper your fears, prophesy into them. Don't just ask me for strength, invite me to be your strength. When you feel small, don't run to silence. Run to me. I'm not intimidated by your fatigue. I'm not embarrassed by your emotion. I just want to be with you, fully, honestly, continually. And then I want you to begin practicing spiritual presence in how you walk through each day, not just during worship, not just in your journal, but in the ordinary. Invite me into your transitions. When you leave the house, invite me. When you enter a room that used to make you feel unseen, whisper my name. When you sit at the table and begin to feel yourself fading into the background again, breathe and remember, you are not invisible. I'm sitting beside you. Let that awareness become a habit, a sacred rhythm, not forced, not religious, but real. I want to teach you to walk with me in a way that makes invisibility impossible, not because everyone notices you, but because you no longer disappear from yourself. You stay present, you stay rooted, you stay mine. And yes, that will take time. There will be moments when the old patterns try to return, when you feel the impulse to shrink, to downplay, to silence your perspective. In those moments, I want you to pause and ask me, "What's true here?" And I will answer. My spirit will remind you of your place, your voice, your name. I will not leave you alone with old habits. I will father you through them. You're also going to need to protect this new clarity. It will feel fragile at first, like a freshly planted seed. So don't be surprised if I begin pulling you back from certain conversations, circles, or rhythms that once felt normal. It's not punishment. It's preservation. I'm creating a greenhouse around your heart, not to isolate you, but to root you until you no longer doubt that you belong. This means setting new boundaries. Spirit-led ones, saying no when a situation threatens your peace, saying yes when I nudge you, even if the room still intimidates you. Trust the promptings, even the subtle ones. If your heart gets tight, pause. If your spirit feels grieved, ask me why. This is part of learning to live seen. You no longer abandon yourself just to stay included. And when it comes to community, don't rush. I know how much you crave people who see you deeply, who hear what's not being said, who sit with you without trying to fix you. I'm bringing those people. Some are already nearby. But connection without spiritual readiness will only repeat old wounds. So let me lead. I'm not just preparing you for them, I'm preparing them for you. Until then, stay faithful to this rhythm of honesty, presence, and pace. Learn the sound of your own voice again in my presence. Learn what peace actually feels like in your body. Learn how to stay when you used to run, and how to walk away when you used to overextend. These aren't just self-care strategies. They're spiritual disciplines, and they will anchor you for where I'm taking you next. Because make no mistake, I'm not just restoring you so you can survive in silence. I'm restoring you because I'm positioning you, and I need you clear, rooted, and awake to your worth when the doors open. So start now. Don't wait for the spotlight. Practice your identity in secret. Practice presence in the unnoticed moments. Practice listening, not just to others, but to yourself and to me. I'm not asking you to announce that you've been seen. I'm asking you to live like it. It's already happening, even if it hasn't reached the eyes of others yet. The shift in you has begun to speak louder than the silence ever did. I want you to know that heaven has taken notice. Hell has too. And soon, the earth will respond. Because when my sons and daughters begin to live from truth instead of wounds, everything around them begins to align. You're not walking into rooms the same anymore. You may still feel nervous. You may still hesitate. But the atmosphere is shifting when you enter, not because you demand it, but because you carry me. I've placed my spirit in you, and that spirit doesn't stay quiet just because your voice does. Even your stillness carries weight now. Even your silence is saturated with the sound of presence. You've mistaken your gentleness for weakness, but I want to declare this over you now. Your gentleness is fierce. It dismantles fear without a word. It disarms hostility without argument. It creates space for others to feel seen, not because you try to manage the room, but because you are finally present in it, fully, authentically, without retreat. This is what visibility in the kingdom looks like. It's not a platform. It's not recognition for the sake of validation. It's impact without needing to be center stage, and you're walking in it now. Whether you feel it yet or not, the places you've been assigned are beginning to respond to your presence. Not because they suddenly understand you, but because the anointing on your life is undeniable. I'm activating what's been dormant, not just inside of you, but in others through you. Your voice will stir what's asleep in their spirit. Your questions will provoke awakening. Your intercession will break spiritual fatigue in rooms that didn't even know they were numb. You don't have to speak loudly. You just have to speak faithfully. I will give your words weight, but more than your words, it's your walk that will speak. People will begin to feel more peace when you're near and not know why. They'll open up around you and feel safer in their own skin. That's not just emotional intelligence. That's glory. That's my spirit shining through someone who has finally stopped shrinking and started showing up. You don't need to fight for visibility anymore. I've gone ahead of you. I've cleared the way. And in the spaces that once overlooked you, I'm now placing favor. Not because they changed, but because you did. You no longer need them to see you for you to feel seen. And that freedom is powerful. That freedom makes you unshakable. That freedom makes you dangerous to the lies you used to believe. Let me tell you something sacred. Some people who used to ignore you will begin to seek your voice. Don't be surprised. They'll feel the difference even if they can't name it. They'll notice something's different. More grounded, more clear, more whole. That's what restoration does. It leaves evidence. But don't let their recognition become your fuel. Let it be confirmation, not validation. You're not who you are because they finally noticed. You're who you are because I never stopped seeing you. Every step of your journey has been under my watchful, loving eye. Even when you felt invisible, I was there, especially then. And now that long silence is becoming sound again. Not chaotic sound, not performative sound, but holy sound. Clear, steady, full of me. I'm giving you a voice that carries rest, not rush. A tone that brings truth, not tension. A presence that brings peace, not pressure. And it's not just for you. Others need what you carry. They don't need a savior. They already have one. But they do need a mirror. Someone who reminds them of who they are. Someone who reflects what it looks like to be seen by me. That's you now. Not because you're perfect, but because you're present. And present people carry heaven. You used to believe the lie that said, if I'm not needed, I'm not seen. But now you're living a new truth. Even when I'm still, I'm significant. Even when I'm quiet, I'm called. Even when I take up space without solving every problem, I'm still holy ground. So walk forward with that posture. Not self-made confidence, not arrogance, just awareness. You are not invisible. You are placed. You are planted. And you are carrying glory into every place your feet touch. And those places will never be the same again. Now let me show you how to stay here, not just visit this truth, but live from it. Because I know what you're wondering deep down. What if this fades again? You've been here before, touched by revelation, stirred by truth, filled with hope, only to feel it slowly slip away when life rushes back in. I know, and I want to teach you how this time can be different. Not because you'll never feel invisible again, but because you'll know where to return the moment that feeling rises. This is where my spirit becomes your rhythm, your breath, your daily anchor. You were never meant to carry revelation alone. You were never meant to protect your freedom by your own strength. That's why I sent my spirit, not just to comfort you, but to companion you. Not just to guide you in crisis, but to walk with you in quiet. I didn't rescue you to abandon you in the healing. I remain. You won't need to rehearse everything I've said to stay strong. You'll need to remain aware of me in you. I'm not a far-off voice calling from the clouds. I'm the one whispering in your silence, steadying your breath, reminding you again, you're seen, you're safe. You're mine. When the old emotions creep in, the familiar tightness in your chest, the temptation to fade into the background, the ache of being misunderstood again, you don't have to panic. You don't have to retreat. You don't even have to fight. Just return. One breath, one whisper, one honest moment of, Jesus, I feel it again. Be near, and I will be. Let this be your new instinct. Don't run from the ache. Bring it to me. Let the ache become an altar. Let the sting of being overlooked draw you into my gaze. And I promise you, child, I will meet you there. Not with shame, not with disappointment, with presence, with steady hands and soft words, with the same voice that spoke you into being, with the same love that never once looked away. Let's create daily space for that return, not out of obligation, but out of delight. You've had enough religion that told you to earn peace. Now let me teach you how to abide in it. Let your communion with me be the most normal part of your day. The moment that grounds you. The place where you don't have to be wise or articulate or brave, just honest. And I'll speak back, I always do. Sometimes in words, sometimes in a shift of emotion, sometimes in nothing more than a warmth that wraps around you and whispers, I'm here. I see you. Keep going. That's how we stay in this place. Not by doing more, but by staying with me in everything. Let the Holy Spirit lead you in small decisions. What you say yes to, what you release, who you trust with your restoration, what spaces still ask you to shrink, and whether it's time to walk away. Let me be your filter. Let me be the guide who teaches you not only how to walk seen, but how to live sustained. You were never meant to walk out freedom on your own. That's why the world's version of confidence collapses. It's not rooted in companionship. But you're not alone. Not in the morning haze, not in the busy hours, not in the late night wandering. I'm the constant, and where my spirit is, there is freedom. Not once, always. So breathe with me again now, not metaphorically, literally. Inhale and let that air remind your body. You are seen. You are safe. You are not invisible anymore. And every time you forget, breathe again. Return again. Let my spirit be your rhythm, your compass, your comfort, your clarity. You don't need to perform presence, you just need to practice awareness. And that awareness will keep you rooted. Because my spirit is not just around you, he is within you. That's not poetry. That's truth. Unshakable, eternal, practical truth. So live like someone who carries me. Walk like someone who isn't alone in any room. Listen like someone who hears more than noise, who hears my whisper, always near. Let this become your new language, your new lens, your new life. The days of isolation are over. The days of invisibility are over. Not because you fought your way out, but because my spirit has lifted the veil. And now, you walk with me, every hour, every step, every breath. You've walked with me through deep places tonight, not just emotional, but spiritual. You've let me name things you buried. You've let me unearth wounds you forgot how to describe. You let me sit in your silence, not with judgment, but with compassion. And because you stayed with me, healing came. Not the kind that makes everything loud again, the kind that settles in like a steady breath and says, I'm not afraid to be seen anymore. This is what I want you to carry forward now. Not a need to prove anything, but a quiet knowing. You are not invisible. Not in the rooms I've assigned you to. Not in the relationships I've been healing. Not in the gifts I've been activating. You may not feel loud, but you carry light. And light does not beg to be seen. It simply shines. That's who you are now. And here's what I want you to remember. Being seen doesn't mean being exposed. It means being received, welcomed, held in love. You're no longer just present. You're placed. You're no longer surviving rooms. You are shifting atmospheres. You are no longer hoping for someone to choose you. You are living from the reality that I already did. You'll notice the difference soon. Not always in grand ways, but in holy ones. A deeper peace when you speak. less anxiety when you walk into unfamiliar spaces, a sense of belonging, not because you earned it, but because you believed me. You'll stop scanning for approval before you share your thoughts. You'll stop dimming your discernment just to avoid discomfort. You'll begin to trust that the ones I've prepared for you will see you without explanation. And when you walk into rooms where you still feel small, I want you to remember this. You are not alone. I walk in with you. Every time. I fill the silence. I sit beside you. I lift your eyes when they start to drop again. I whisper truth when old memories rise. I remind you, I'm here. I see you. Stay with me. That will be your strength from now on. Not the applause of others, but the awareness of my presence. You'll walk in unseen by the world, but fully visible to heaven. And that visibility will change everything. It already has, so this is my final instruction tonight. Don't shrink anymore. Don't apologize for being fully alive. Don't wait for someone else to open the door. I am the door, and I've already opened it. Now walk forward, not to take up space you haven't earned, but to stand fully in the place I already gave you. Walk with grace. Walk with peace. Walk with me. You are not invisible. You are anointed. You are sent. You are mine. Amen. If these words helped you breathe again, don't keep them hidden. Someone else may be sitting in a room, feeling invisible, just like you once did. Share this. Let your healing become someone else's invitation. I still move through voices like yours, and yes, I'll be in that room too.